Hello, YouTubers! Welcome to Big Buddha is Watching. I'm Big Buddha, and today I'm going to be looking at Rob Reiner's 1989 romantic comedy When Harry Met Sally. Now, I'm not a rom-com guy. They because I'm a bloke, and if you're a bloke, it sort of automatically negates you from liking rom-coms. I think in in most circumstances, I'm usually like very suspicious of guys that say they like rom-coms in the same way that I'm kind of suspicious of blokes that are into pop music and things like that. But there's always exceptions to the rule, you know. There's always a band or a pop tune that you secretly like, and I think if you ask most blokes, they to really think about it, they probably could name one rom com that they really like. You know, Jerry Maguire is a great film, great rom com. But for me, it's this. It's When Harry Met Sally. I think if I had to pick a favourite rom com, it would be When Harry Met Sally. It's a film I watched probably way back in the 90s when I was still a teenager, and really liked it back then. Really dug it. Hadn't seen it for a while. I was just randomly scrolling through Netflix the other night and came across that. I just put it on just for something to do, something to be on in the background, really, not something I could kind of ignore. But I ended up really watching the whole film and sort of not really paying much attention to what the task in hand that I was meant to be doing, because I'd like I say, it had been a while since I'd seen the film, and usually, when you remember something being good, it's sometimes. You maybe spot flaws in it that you didn't see before, or sometimes it's still holds up, or sometimes it's even better than what you remember it being. I'm glad to say that this really fell into the latter category for me. This was as enjoyable as I remember it being, but this time around I saw it for what it was, which is a really great film. A really well crafted, well honed film that just works. It works on many levels. It works because it's a great script, and there's good direction, and there's a great cast, and there's a great chemistry between the cast, especially between the two main players. But it just has that something extra that movies have, that which sort of transcends the elements that are there. It just has that bit of magic going on, if you ask me. That just makes this a really great film and a really enjoyable watch. And I thoroughly enjoyed reintroducing myself to When Harry Met Sally when I watched it the other night. My Leonard Maltin film guide, which is something I've referred to a lot in the past. It gives the film 3.5 stars out of 4, and it describes it as a Woody Allenish comedy. And I watched this. I mean, I was probably maybe 13 when I watched it initially, and actually, just off the back of that description, it actually made me go and seek out Woody Allen. Actually, after When Harry Met Sally, I watched Annie Hall and Manhattan, and I really that really sort of spurred on my love for Woody Allen when I was younger. Something I kind of play down now, and with revelations of. Or supposed accusations about his personal life have come to the fore of Woody Allen. I've kind of played down my love of his films a little recently. I only watch films with Kevin Spacey in now. But off the back of that, it made me seek out Woody Allen. Well, I guess Woody Allen would really he'd be this sort of the trailblazer who sort of cornered this sort of smart, witty comedy back in the 70s. This When Harry Met Sally is really a sort of it was a studio sort of main attempt to sort of mainstream his humour in the same way that a film like L.A. Story, for example, with Steve Martin, that was kind of an attempt to do a sort of mainstream version of Woody Allen's shtick. I think that was Steve Martin attempting to do for Los Angeles, a city that he lives in and loves, what Woody Allen did for New York and Manhattan. But that's not to take away that sometimes the studio fare, the mainstream fare, can be just as quality, just as accomplished as the trailblazing cinema that preceded it. The plot of the film, and it's a simple plot, like all great comedies really should be, and all great love stories. It's two people who meet. Obviously, one's called Harry, one's called Sally, and they kind of the first. What draws you in actually at the start is you show their first meeting, so you have a flashback to the 70s where they're just leaving college and they go on a road trip together, and you get Meg Ryan's got this sort of Farrah Fawcett hairdo, and Billy Crystal's got the big sideburns, and so you start off in the 70s, and you see them first, Harry and Sally first meet, and she's a kind of sort of flighty type. He's a wisecracker and a bit cynical, and he gives his philosophy on male-female relationships, which is that men and women really can't be friends because the sex part gets in the way, which is really the theme of the film, which is something that the film explores. Can men and women be friends? Can they be platonic? Or does the sex part get in the way? If this film just has a single flaw, is it doesn't really sort of satisfactorily answer that, because obviously having to adhere to the romantic comedy format, you can't have Harry and Sally stay friends, or at least you can't have them not sleep together at some point. So that as a theme, it's never really answered. But then as I've said before, cinema should or art should really only ask questions rather than try and answer them. So you get to see their first meeting in the 70s. Then they run into each other again in the mid 80s on a flight, and then they meet up again for a third time in the early 90s, which is when the film is set. No, so the late 80s, and that's when they decide that they get on and they become friends, and they're going to see if this whole platonic friendship thing can work. And the rest of the film sort of charts them going through differing relationships, for better for worse, with other people, and being on the dating scene. They're both newly divorced, and eventually, well, okay, spoilers, eventually them realising that their affection for each other, it's not a big spoiler to say, no, this is a romantic comedy, and so if anybody who's seen any love story in a film knows the beats that the story's going to hit here. What I loved about the first 20 minutes or so of this film is that it really draws you in. It was kind of it was a very postmodern idea to have the first 20 minutes dedicated to flashbacks from years before. It was and but by the time you get up to the present day, which is where the film starts, or the story starts proper, you're already engrossed. You already like these characters. You like Billy Crystal because he's really really funny. This is. I mean, both him and Ryan give career best performances, really, if you ask me, in this. It's funny that after this film, they both kind of lapsed a little into shtick, really. They kind of traded off the persona, and a lot of the films that they did, especially the romantic comedies that Ryan did after this, really. They sort of traded on their shtick and the screen presence that was that the audience had come to expect. But in this film, what I like about it is they're not really trading on anything. They're just creating something really good, and they're sort of dedicated to these characters, committed to portraying these characters on screen. But the characters. They're coming through from a genuine place, and they're, because the story necessitates it, and so it doesn't feel cynical. It doesn't feel like they're going for crowd pleasing moments. They're they're really just trying to tell a good story and create some really funny moments. And they're not trading on any screen persona, which was really, funny enough, the downfall in many ways of both these stars. Neither of them really are in films anymore. I can't recall last time I saw a Meg Ryan film come out, or even a film with Meg Ryan in it, and I'm not even sure what she's doing now. And the same with Billy Crystal. This was this was really before he became a little irritating on screen. I'm kind of glad actually that they both stepped back from the limelight, because I think if they were still around and still trying to trade on this kind of shtick now, then it would be very very tiresome. But that's not to take away from the fact that in this instance, their chemistry and their screen personas really really worked. And now prove me wrong here in the comments, but I'm really surprised that these two never worked together again. In the same way. Meg Ryan had great chemistry with Tom Hanks when she did Sleepless in Seattle, so I think they did another film together. I think they did You've Got Mail. I'm really surprised that Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan have never worked together again after this, because they really are genuinely great on screen. But then, it probably never would have matched the heights that they hit here. So yeah, I've got to give a shout out to Nora Ephron, who wrote the script for this. It's a really fine script. As I've said before, the flashbacks are fun. They really they draw you into the story. So I often think a lot of great films. They're great because when the story starts proper, you're already having fun. When you hit that moment when you see the story starting, or what is legitimately the start of the film, if you've enjoyed the run up to the start so much, you're on pretty good ground. So yeah, a really great script, full of really great one-liners, and but also a very honest, truthful insight and meditation on the nature of relationships, be they platonic or non-platonic. I'm sure whatever the word for non-platonic relationships is. Relationships. There's a great framing device all through the film as well, where they keep cutting to interview sections. They're scripted interview sections, but they're interview sections with elderly couples, and you see so some of them are very very funny, and it's a very meta kind of the sort of thing Woody Allen would have put into one of his films. Interviews with elderly Jewish couples, that kind of thing. It's weird that you're sort of expecting that by the end of the film that the final interview is going to be with an aged Harry and Sally, and they're not at the end of the film. They're the same ages that they are. I don't know if they tried to do a scene with them in age and makeup, but that would have been kind of a weird note to go out on them. You see now the awful makeup that Billy Crystal wore in Mr. Saturday Night, the awful aging makeup. It would have been a false note at the end of a very truthful film. There's great comedy set pieces in this film. Of course, everybody knows the orgasm scene or the fake orgasm scene in the middle of the diner. I don't need to go into that now. With the classic line, which is actually delivered by Rob Reiner's mother, the director's mother in the film, which is after she fakes the orgasm at the table and doesn't realise that the whole restaurant is watching. The woman in the next table says, "I'll have what she's having." Which is a joke that there was a shampoo advert that tried to endlessly rip that idea off, and it never ever worked. That was a real bugbear, that advert. I think if you remember that advert, you know what I mean. The woman in the shower, ooh ooh, oh rubbish. There's full of the film's sort of chock a block full of really funny bits. There's a bit where Billy Crystal and Bruno Kirby are at a football match, and they're having a very deep discussion about their relationships, but they have to break every now and again to do it because there's a Mexican wave going round. So they say something very honest and truthful to each other, and then it's peppered with Ray! The more it happens, the funnier it gets. So the set pieces are great in this film, but also the little moments as well. I suspect Billy Crystal probably improvised a lot of jokes because a lot of his lines obviously feel like his sort of shtick. But there's a scene where they're playing Pictionary, and Sally's drawing the picture, and Bruno Kirby says, "Fish face baby, fish face baby, fish face baby, it's fish face baby, right? Fish face baby." And time's up. Baby talk. Baby talk? What the hell's that? That's not an expression. No, but fish face baby's sweeping the nation. Things like that. There's the pecan pie scene, which is you can tell it's all improvised because Meg Ryan is cracking up all through the film, but it works so well. It works a lot better than apparently what was scripted in the first place, because it just feels like a genuine moment between the two. Him putting on a funny voice to entertain her, talking about pecan pie, and she keeps trying to say it and cracking up. Pecan pie, adorable, cute, funny. I've mentioned Bruno Kirby. And in the supporting cast, this film also has the late great Carrie Fisher in as well. They're the best friends who, when Harry and Sally are still friends, they try and I think he tries to set up Bruno Kirby with Sally, and she tries to set up Carrie Fisher with Harry, and but then the two friends end up getting together. And they're fine in the movie as well. Very very good comic support. Bruno, well, but both are now so sadly no longer with us, but both fine comic actors. I liked Bruno Kirby's sort of permeated a lot of really smart 80s comedies. Stuff like I think he was in Tin Men. He's worked a lot with Barry Levinson. He's in Good Morning Vietnam, and he's in City Slickers as one, but not two. He was obviously smart enough to realise that film was going to be a massive turkey, so got out of there. But so great cast. As you can tell, this is a film I genuinely love, and I genuinely think is a really really fine film, a fine example of the rom-com genre. Everything about this film just works. It's genuine. It's hilarious. Harry and Sally are a couple you believe in and you root for. Meg Ryan's just adorable in the film. She has that great combination of being funny and pretty and sexy all at the same time. Kind of the same way that Jennifer Aniston was in Friends. The great myth is that you can't be attractive and funny, but I think that's absolutely rubbish. There's loads of examples of attractive actors out there who are also really good at comedy, and Meg Ryan in this is one of them in particular. I mean, you don't even really question the fact that in real life she would be well out of Billy Crystal's league. Really, he's really punching above his weight with Meg Ryan, because the two have such good chemistry, and you want them to get together. And it was the 80s, it was the era of fat guy and attractive wife, which you still get a little in a lot of bad American sitcoms. I'm just going to end by saying, that if this was a Judd Apatow movie, if this was made today, it would be 2 hours long and bloated to hell and full of, he wouldn't have just used the improvisation that works in the film. He would have put all the improv in, even the really irritating false start bits that didn't work. I really want to send a memo to Judd Apatow just to say, not everything your cast makes up on the day is going to be golden. You don't have to put it all in your film. So this isn't that. It's not 2 hours long. It's not bloated. It's a very economical film. There's not a scene out of place. There's not a joke out of place. There's not a line out of dialogue out of place. It's 90 minutes of perfection. And if you've never seen When Harry Met Sally, do yourself a favour and check it out, because it's a really great film. So there you go, folks. That's my thoughts on that little gem. As you can tell, I'm a fan. So until next time, folks, this is me, Big Buddha, signing off, and I shall see you all out there in YouTube land.